No, Jake is a little in and out, but you're fine. You're perfect.
Uh, okay. Well, switch. Embrace the pink, embrace the pink. Yeah!
I used to wear a pink shirt to work. Your mom bought it for me.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for weathering through the technical difficulties that we're having as this is our first live stream. So, uh, really, the purpose of today, as I was explaining earlier, I don't even know if that got recorded, but to ensure that we're getting testimonies recorded, that way people can go back and hopefully it can be a bridge to their faith, that people can come to Christ through other people's experiences. Because even if you were to do a scientific study and you were to see that a lot of people were experiencing the same sort of phenomena, there has to be something that has to be behind that. So with this, I want to know from your perspective, what are you wanting to talk about today? What testimony? It doesn't have to be a mountain in your life that you've of course crossed. It could just be something like a small hill, some way that Christ has intervened and changed your life.
Well, I think the most impactful is when I was given 6 months to live. That was, you want to talk about that?
Of course, yeah. I think that nowadays, with all of the issues that people are having,
Yeah.
sudden strokes, and a lot of young people dying, I think a lot of people would probably want to hear about that.
Okay. Well, let's. How do you want me to begin?
Well, tell me, what was your life like as soon as you heard this news? You say that you had 6 months to live. What was the cause? What were your reactions to it? Of course, I know the backstory, so I want you to fill in people from square one.
So basically, what happened is I started experiencing very high blood pressure, and what was interesting about it is that I was very much in shape. I worked out 4 or 5 days a week. I coached soccer. I did all that, and but I still had these issues with my blood pressure. Anyway, so I went to the doctor and I couldn't find anything. Couldn't find anything, and then my primary physician looked at me. I was putting it on my shirt, and she said, "Hey, wait a second, do that again." So I took my shirt off, took it back on, and I said, so she started checking my throat, and she said, "Oh, oh." She called a doctor, and they immediately sent me right over to the other doctor, and they took a biopsy immediately. And the next day, I got a call to be there as soon as possible. So I went back over to the doctor, and he said, "Mr. Pritchett, we got some really bad news for you." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" And he said, "Well, you have about 6 months to live." Well, first of all, he said, "You need somebody here with you." And I said, "Well, I don't need anybody here with me. I have God and I have Jesus, so I'm perfectly fine." And, he didn't really understand that. And, but he gave it to me. They gave me the news. I talked to him about it. And basically, he said, "Look, you've got 6 months to live. You need to go and make members with your kids, your children, as soon as possible, and then come back and we'll start working on it." And that's exactly what happened.
So, at a time in your life where you were encountering just such massive odds against you, you turned to God in that moment. I mean, you chose not to have any family there. Of course, you had the your heavenly Father, but what was that like? I mean, did you turn to prayer? Did you turn automatically to Scripture? What was your process?
Well, what's good is I had prepared, and I know that some people don't understand that, and they don't look at the Bible as being a preparatory tool. They look at it as learning, but not really a preparatory tool. But I learned early on that the Bible is the key to have answers to all of life's issues. And so what I did is I immediately grasped two things. First of all is faith, and the other is hope. I hoped that I could beat it. And I envisioned a time when I would beat it, and I would be there, there for all of my family again. But also I had faith, and that's important. So I wasn't concerned. I didn't go out and read the Bible. Obviously I prayed, but I knew that if God wanted me to die, then I was going to die. And if he wanted me to live, he was doing a great example of going through a tough time and making somebody better, and also being able to share it. So absolutely, I wasn't concerned. I mean, obviously you're concerned a little bit, but I had hope and faith, and that's two or three things that I was going to do. But we'll talk about the third in a few minutes.
Some people would look at that if they were facing that in their own life, and they would be angry. They would be angry with God that God would allow this to happen to them. Some people that don't believe in God, or don't have faith in Jesus, they would say, well, hey, you're all powerful, all loving God. Why would they allow that to happen to you? I mean, did you ever have a second of doubt in this? Did you ever have a second of anger, or was your anger thrown somewhere else? I mean, what does
No,
that look like?
I didn't. I had I've been a Christian since I was 9 years old. I was baptized at 9, and I really read the Bible not as just reading the Bible, but I looked for answers and how to deal with things, and whether it was being a good father, or being a good friend, or being a good husband, or whatever the situation was, the Bible provided me answers. And sometimes it took uh, going through hard times to really learn what the lessons actually were. So I didn't I wasn't mad at God. I didn't say, oh, but wow, I don't want to die. I mean, obviously I wanted to be there for my family. But again, I wasn't mad at God, and I praised him and I thanked him. And that's what's the other thing. So when you have faith and hope in something, if something bad happens, you've got to make sure that you thank God. And that's a hard concept for a lot of people. And I learned that through the death of my brother, one of my brothers. And I, I, I had always read Thessalonians, and it said, "In all things, give thanks." And it's easy to think, "Oh, wow, I had a great son, or I had great grandchildren, or I had a great friend, or a great job, or whatever." It's easy to thank God for those things, but when it came down to it, I had to thank Him, and not just thank Him in words. I had to feel and understand that He was doing what was right by me. I had faith in that, and He was giving me an obstacle that I could possibly overcome, and I hope that I could overcome it. But ultimately, it was His decision, and I was okay with that.
I think that's just so incredibly powerful that you were just faced with this. You were faced with death at the end of the day. You were
Yeah.
faced with uh, leaving your family on this earth. You were faced with insurmountable odds, and you were faced with having to put your faith in other people. But of course, at the end of the day, you turned and you put your faith in God. And look at you. I mean, you've survived decades past whenever doctors said, hey, this was not going to be something that you're going to get past. And then you had, I know, another encounter with cancer later on that miraculously went away. Is that true?
Yeah. Again, I had a cancer in my arm, and they were like, nobody would touch it, because I thought I was going to die again. The same situation, but I knew God would provide, and I had to pray for that too. It wasn't just, oh, God will provide and don't worry about it. I had to pray, and I had to be involved in what was my role in getting well. What was my role in also learning about what's happening, so I could share it with other people. That's important as well. I mean, it's not just, if I would have died, I would have died. But, I lived through a really hard time, and God allowed me to share that with so many people over the years. And I have, and not because, I was lucky or whatever. God made it possible, and I prayed about it. I fasted about it, and I was taken care of. And later on, when I had the other cancer, I prayed for a surgeon that I would find somebody that would do the surgery. And I found a lady. She's a wonderful doctor, and she did such a great job. And she took it out, and it was done.
Battling something just so extreme like that, I want to ask, is there a simple message that you'd like to give to people that may be going through the same thing, or that may have a loved one that's going through the same thing?
Well, don't prep. A lot of people say, "Oh, I was in a car accident today, and I was hurt really bad, or whatever." It starts before you ever get in a car. You got to pray and to say, "Hey, dear Lord, protect me, save me." And once you do that, you've committed to an exercise with the Lord, and He's watching over you and take care of you. So what happens is these things will. Um he's managing, or he's watching over you, and from that, we know, hey, what's the issue? We're going to be okay. We're going to, um, um, you know, the car driver is going to be just fine, or whatever. And but if it's not fine, well, God is His purpose and reason. He's there. He understands. So again, it's an opportunity to be better as a person, as a Christian, to overcome something that maybe you need to overcome, or maybe you weren't doing something right. Now you are doing something right. Maybe you drove intoxicated, or in sleep deprived, or whatever it is, and he had a wreck. But again, say the prayers, know that God's going to take care of you. And then once I didn't know how to pray. I didn't say a prayer for, hey, I have cancer, I'm going to die, so I'm just, I didn't know what that was. But some things happen. I always prayed for everything to be okay with my children, to make me a better father, to make me, all those things. So when you pray for those things in advance, you're under God's care, and that's so important. It's not just about reacting to it. It's about preventing it, and seeing it through, and he'll take care of you. Absolute faith and hope is so important. Hope gives us the ability to see what resolution is. Faith is knowing that God's going to take care of it regardless of what happens. And then we come back to being thankful for it, because I realized that, what, I had cancer, and I ultimately got to thank Him for it. Just like when my brother died, I didn't know. I didn't ever think to thank Him, but I was reading Thessalonians, and I said, "Oh wow, how do I thank God for uh, my brother dying?" And what I did is I prayed. I thought a lot about it, and I started realizing that, what, God made the best decision for my brother, and he's in a much better place now. And again, that's so important. So again, and I was able to thank God for the cancer diagnosis, because again, I was able to share with so many people and understand that I was preparing ahead of time. I didn't know what I was preparing for, and still I prepare for every day, knowing that God could put me in a situation, and I want to be ready for it. And that's so important.
How has that impacted your pathway on being a father? I mean, how has all of this? I know that, of course, you losing your brother and you going through all of these health issues. At the end of the day, um, how does that translate to being a dad in today's world?
Well, again, we're so scared. I mean, not just with my children, but also with my grandchildren. And you got to pray for them. You got to understand. You got to make sure that they're in an environment of care and of godliness. Because again, if you charge God to take care of them, He's going to take care of them. And if He doesn't take care of them, it's for a reason. And that's so important. We really need to understand that, you know what, if I was to lose you today, for instance, Jake, if I was to lose you as a son, you know, as hard it would be, and it would be something that I wouldn't be able to thank God for right away, but I would understand, have faith and hope, and eventually I would come to the conclusion, hopefully, that I would be able to thank God for that. And that's so important. So again, have faith and know that everything is going to be okay as long as you submit it to God and He's managing your life for you.
Sorry, we have to switch headphones.
No problem.
My question is really and this is for the people who, because I have seventh graders who have no idea what a testimony is. And there are people out there who don't even know how to create a testimony for themselves. What made you realize that part of your life is part of your testimony?
It's so interesting, and your life can be, examples, just if you lived a perfect life and you was always happy and you were always, have food to eat, or you had a warm bed to sleep in, or all that stuff, it's pretty easy to thank God. But, when the tough times come and struggles come, that's when God is looking to help you grow, and you got to have faith in it. And once you grow, it automatically be a testament, because I sometimes I didn't have dinner. I slept in a garage with no heat, no air. So again, it'd be 105 degrees, because it was just a door, uh, um, uh, and there's no weather weather stripping or anything. It was hot or it's cold, but that's okay. When you identify something that's important in your life, and you maybe want to look for struggles, look for things, hard work or whatever, because it makes you better. I promise you it does. And you know what, I never curse God or anything like that for the decisions that I had. And I make bad decisions, but the good thing is, when you make bad decisions and you come back and you understand that, God didn't want you to do that, or that wasn't the right thing to do, that is a statement for other people to learn from your errors and your wisdom. And uh, difficulties breed wisdom, as long as you deal with them through faith, hope, and love, which again, love is the most important. So that's something I really focus on. And I think that everybody needs to understand that, because again, if your life is really happy, you don't have any um, bad times or anything like that, that's a huge problem, because again, Satan is there, and he's leaving you in a situation where you're so happy that you don't change anything, and you don't need God. So that's important.
Yeah, amen. That was absolutely amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. If you're in a season of life where things are a little bit too easy, and maybe you're falling into some things that you've been fighting against for a really long time, and you don't have a need to really turn to God, that may be a time to question where you're at, and what your priorities and what your values are, because you may be being led down a very easy and a very wide path, instead of the one that's a little bit harder and a little bit more narrow. But I really do appreciate you making time to come on today, sharing multiple pieces of your testimony, and really just some great word on how people can turn to God in times of really their Job season, kind of like you've been through in those times. So I really do appreciate you.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you guys as well. And I thank you so much for what you're doing. And please, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was an amazing word from Bill. So thank you so much for him to coming on. Yeah, my dad. And of course, we've had some technical difficulties today, so we're gonna work to get that corrected. And next time, we're gonna have a few more people that have been wanting to share their testimony come on. If you're someone that maybe wants to talk about your walk with Christ or what you have experienced with Jesus, then please feel free, reach out. We would love to have you on. Thank you, and y'all have a great day.